Things may just go up in flames as Snake finds himself up against the final Cobra, the Fury, the man who fell to Earth. The boss may have witnessed Earth from space and envisioned a world united without borders, but the Fury was driven mad as he burned up on re-entry. The pain of his injuries have left him trapped in a moment in time from years ago. Some men want to watch the world burn. Still clad in his Soviet spacesuit, the Fury battles Snake within a cavernous underground passage beneath Groznygrad. This place has become home to a colony of bats, and despite all the fire spread by the Fury's flamethrower, neither the rising temperatures nor the lack of ventilation and the diminishing oxygen supply seem to have caused much harm to the bats or Snake. After an intense battle, weaving between the support pillars of the passageway, Snake defeats the Fury.
Boss, this is the end of the Cobras. You've got to live on. You're the only one left. I'm off. To join the sun.
We briefly witness the Fury's severely burnt face. Snake is driven from the tunnel by a flying trail of flames, as if it were the Fury's screaming poltergeist. Ascending yet another ladder, Snake leaves behind a world of fire to enter one of ice. The temperature plummets as he reaches the surface to the snowy southwest of the concrete maze of Groznygrad base. Reaching the weapons lab again will require stealth and deception once more, though this time Snake will not be disguised as a scientist, but as Raikov himself. This is a trickier operation, as it will require incapacitating Raikov and stealing his clothes. Raikov poses no challenge, and Snake tranks him and stores his unconscious body in a locker. Donning the disguise of Raikov, Snake makes his way to Sokolov, who is being held prisoner in a storage room in the west wing of the weapons lab. Snake reaches him just in time to witness Sokolov handing Tatiana a microfilm reel which contains all the experimental data for the Shagohod.
You can count on me. What about the philosopher's legacy?
I don't know anything about that.
So Tatiana pulls out what looks like her lipstick gun.
What are you? Are you trying to kill me?
What's the matter?
Snake waits for Tatiana to leave before entering Sokolov's prison, having removed his Raikov mask.
Who's there? You're the man from the CIA. What are you doing here?
I told you before, didn't I? I'm going to get you out of here.
A man of honor, just like your commander. But I'm afraid you're too late.
Too late? Don't tell me. The Shagohods.
Exactly. The final preparations for Phase 2 are complete.
Sokolov, what exactly is Phase 2?
Sokolov explains that Phase 2 is a plan to accelerate the Shagohod to the point that it can travel up to 300 miles or 482 kilometers per hour. This is to provide enough thrust to launch an ICBM to almost any target around the world. Sokolov thinks all hope is lost, but Snake believes they still have time to turn things around. Sokolov suggests they use the C3 putty explosive to ignite the rocket fuel. Only problem is that Eva already took all the C3 in the armoring, or perhaps it isn't a problem at all if Eva is truly on Snake's side. We then get some awkward, unnatural, and unnecessary exposition about Tatiana being Volgan's lover, and Sokolov reminding Snake, again, that Sokolov's family is in the custody of the CIA.
Eva?
No, that's not her name. Her name is Tatiana. She made her way in here by becoming Volgan's lover.
I thought she was your lover.
Mine? Oh no, she is Volgan's lover. This is my lover.
Who are they?
My wife and daughter. They're in America.
Now I remember. Your family is in the custody of the CIA.
Sokolov also says that Tatiana told him that Khrushchev had sent her. This block ends with Sokolov refusing rescue, after everything Snake and the United States government had gone through to reach it. Ask the Metal Girl. You are listening to Metal Girl Solid, one woman's journey through a series she knows nothing about. I'm your host Courtney Colson, and this is episode 10. This episode begins at hour 5 and ends at 5 hours 30 minutes. This block begins with The Fury and ends with Sokolov refusing rescue. How rude. The Fury went into space as the boss did, but he returned to Earth with a completely different experience. He was left with a kind of existential anger. You might even be able to describe it as anti-natalist, a great and terrible fury at being alive, as if he was angry that he was ever born. However, we know that most, if not all people who have been lucky enough to see the Earth from space are left with an experience known as the overview effect, a profound and positive change in their worldview. To quote Yadin et al. Here, the overwhelmingly beautiful sight of our Earth triggers a profound emotional response in most astronauts, leading to a cognitive shift, making them realize the global interconnectedness of all life and feel responsibility for the future of our planet. This experience has the attributes of self-transcendence and awe, and is a remarkable example of a transformative experience. And that absolutely sounds like the boss, but not so much the Fury. What do we know about the Fury? The novelization might give us more insight, but as for the canon of the game itself, we know of course that Fury is the emotion he brings into battle. The Cobras assembled in World War II, long before man or any man-made object had reached space. The Fury was always furious. Just to give another recap of the space race. On April 12, 1961, Yuri Gagarin was the first man in space, completing one full orbit of the Earth, which apparently only took 108 minutes. Then why does it take me a full day to fly to the Northern Hemisphere? Project Mercury was the United States program to reach space, which ran from 1959 to 1963. On May 5th, 1961, Alan Shepard was the second man in space, after Yuri, but the first American to do so. The boss was also involved in Project Mercury and was sent into space. Here's what the Metal Gear Wiki says. Later on, the boss was chosen for participation in the Mercury project and met for the first time Strangelove, who was assigned to Mercury as a key staff member. She was sent to space on a mission to acquire data on how well the human body could cope in such conditions, but during which radiation was an inevitability. She unofficially became the first American in space, and seeing the Earth from above sparked her dream for uniting the world as one. Unfortunately, as she returned to Earth from her flight on April 12, 1961, the addition of a window caused her re-entry capsule to veer off course and crash land in the ocean, resulting in the boss being thrown from the capsule and severely burned by both the cosmic radiation and the heat of re-entry. Miraculously, the boss did survive, but she was hospitalized as a result, and she and Strangelove never saw each other again. The injury sent the boss into another deep coma for 6 months. The military covered up this accident by claiming that the boss took part in the CIA's botched Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba. So the boss would have been in space at the same time as Yuri. Would have been something if they crashed into each other. Given all this information, let's return our focus to the Fury. Is he the exact Eastern counterpart to the boss? Is he the first man the Soviets tried to put up into space, but his mission was a failure, so they covered it up? Or was he sent later? Was his involvement in the Soviet space program inspired by the boss? We can never know, but his role as the boss's counterpart is fitting. Snake 2 is another counterpart. Both of these men embody aspects of herself. She influenced them. They exist because of her. And she will have that influence on many people. I mean, the Cobras, Strangelove. Her influence, I imagine, would go all the way to Solid Snake, right? She's his foundational character, even though she doesn't show up until 2003, middle of the narrative. I'm willing to bet. I'm putting money on that. Honestly, I hadn't put it together before now, but it really does seem like the Fury's purpose here is to show what the boss, or Snake, could have become if integrity and valor had failed them. If the boss had been severely disfigured in her spaceflight, is this what she could have become? The Fury presents a dark mirror for both the boss and Snake. The fight ends with us once more stepping out of reality, with the trail of fire snaking through the air, chasing after Snake. By the way, my total script for this season has the word snake used over 600 times. The living flame is not unlike the end's living forest. These elements of nature are guiding or pushing Snake onwards. And I guess that's what? Earth, fire, but wind and water? Well, there's water. Water will push us along later. Air, though. Do we have... we fall from the sky, maybe that's... Hang on, guys, I'm onto something. Yeah, we are pushed through this journey through the 4 elements. You start with air, with the halo jump. Then it's the living forest with the end. Then you have the living flame with the fury. And then later you have... No one is really behind. You're running from Ocelot and then you jump down that river and then we end up with the sorrow. So is it the sorrow? So I don't know. If you look hard enough, you can find these connections, when it comes to the 7 stages of grief or the 4 elements, the 5th element. I like that about media analysis. It's not necessarily wrong, as long as you can back it up. You can justify it, especially... with things like 7 stages of grief, the 4 elements, and those things, well, these are all very common, universal aspects of culture. So maybe the artist, the writer, the creator had these things in the back of their mind as well. So it's valid until someone proves me otherwise. One thing I always wondered about with the Fury are the voices we hear coming from his suit. Are they diegetic or non-diegetic? Is he simply hallucinating them, or can Snake hear them too? Were they created by the sound department, or is it a sample of real Russian radio transmissions? I can find no information on this, and I assume we never will. Snake climbs to the surface at Groznygrad southwest, and it is now snowing. I think it's supposed to be summer though, right? It's Russia, so I guess this is Russian summer. Sigan asks Snake about the transmitter in Grandin's shoe. The two of them wonder if Tatiana is the spy. No shit, guys. We get a close-up on Raikov's black panties / G-banger with a gold thunderbolt on them. There is a popular misconception that Raiden means lighting in Japanese. This is incorrect, sort of. There are a number of ways to say lightning in Japanese. There's the anglified Raitening. There is also Inazuma. But no, the connection between Raiden and lightning is the Japanese god of thunder and lightning, Raijin, also known as Raiden. I recently went to see the statues of these gods in a Buddhist temple in Kyoto. Even though the statues were all about my height, there was just something powerful and unnerving about them. I would not have wanted to be in that hall alone with them. And I think you feel that powerful sensation in any place of worship, I find. Temples and churches are places of pure, concentrated human intention and imagination. It radiates all around you. See, I go to such lengths for my audience. I really should write my holiday off as a business expense. Returning to the game, in the locker room you will see some abstract posters. You can't quite make sense of any of them. One of them seems to say turn ART. It's the side profile of a woman, pale white, cartoony, and natural looking. No idea what the hell is that? Was it just one of the art department just making whatever? I don't know. I'd be curious to see if Delta recreates these posters or replaces them, especially the posters of porn models. What's the licensing around that like? And also the licensing around all the stock World War II footage. I think that was one of the main reasons why getting the Legacy collection, I think apparently that was really challenging to do because there were just so many licensing issues to work around. Speaking of, I am disappointed that the pin-ups are all modern. It's the 60s. Come on, give me vintage Playboy babes. Come on. Love 60s Playboy babes. It was a prime time. Raikov and Eva are immune to the effects of the magazine. I'm clearly not immune to the effects of the magazine. You leave lying around to distract the soldiers. If you leave Raikov's body lying outside of the locker, Zero will admonish you. It only now occurs to me that Zero was voiced by two different actors for some reason. Jim Piddock in MGS3, and Time, yes, not Tim, Time Winters in MGSV. They sound pretty similar, it's just that Time sounds older and more aristocratic, colder and more aloof, none of the warmth of the character he was in Snake Eater, so I think that casting was actually quite brilliant. We have finally made it to the West Wing in full Raikov disguise. We give a salute to the soldiers and head right on in to pay Sokolov a visit. Why does Snake pull off the Raikov mask? Just a side note about that. He walks in there and then immediately pulls that mask off before he's entered Sokolov's room. And also, how does he pull it off? How does it work? You know, it functions exactly like human skin. It is indistinguishable. And he just pulls it right on and off. He's still got a bandana under there. He's still got his hair looking perfect. I don't know. Sokolov is happy to see Snake, but he says he's too late. Phase 2 is complete. Sokolov explains why the Shagohod had to be designed the way it was. This is actually maybe the first, if only time, the logistics of a Metal Gear are interesting to me. The purpose behind the Shagohod's particular form of locomotion is to provide it with enough speed and force to launch nuclear weapons as far as 6,000 miles. Volgan intends to mass-produce the Shagohod and export them across the Eastern Bloc. Snake is extremely confident in his abilities to end this thing. We just need some explosives. No worries. No walkers, as we say in Australia. Simulacra and simulation. Our simulacra in this episode is the Shagohod. I hadn't paid too much attention to the titular Metal Gear before, but the moment I did some digging, I realized it was a simulacrum, both in the way Plato described it and in Baudrillard's definition, an intentional distortion of reality, and something that has no equivalent in reality. Furthermore, it's a means to condense the vast and complex themes of the Cold War into one fictional image. There is no real Shagohod, but it feels like it could exist. In the Metal Gear Saga Volume 1 documentary, Hideo Kojima said that the idea of the Metal Gear weapon, a nuclear-capable walking tank, was conceived in response to the nuclear war hysteria during the 1980s that resulted in the Cold War, as the US military had no mobile land-based nuclear weapons delivery system at the time. At the time? That got me digging further. ICBMs are usually launched from either silos or submarines. The desire for a mobile missile launcher is that it would make it much harder for the enemy to detect and disarm. There is a railcar version of a mobile missile launcher, and this was known as the RT-23 Molodets, and was first deployed in 1987 and decommissioned in 2005 after the START II treaty. And I guess START II maybe gets mentioned in Peace Walker, so we'll get to that when we get to it. There have been numerous missile trucks and tanks dating back to World War II, aka Transporter Erector launchers. But one capable of launching an ICBM seems like it's only Russia's MZKT 79221 in 1996. Maybe. That's not even a straightforward answer. The Topol M missile may be deployed either inside a reinforced missile silo or from an APU launcher mounted on the aforementioned MZKT Universal 16-wheel Transporter Erector launcher. At least that's what the Wikipedia says, but you go to their source and it doesn't say any such thing. All the Nuclear Threat Initiative website says is, Russia is developing the RS-26 Rubez Road Mobile ICBM, which just barely qualifies as an ICBM, by the way. Oh, and then I found this odd website, globalsecurity.org, which looks amateur and old, not Web 1.0 old, but a bit old. And this website lists a heap of supposed ICBM trucks and tanks. But then I looked up each model on that list, and most of them are only equipped for SRBM, short-range ballistic missiles. In order to be considered an ICBM, it has to have a range of 5,500 kilometers, 3,400 miles. The Shagohod at this stage can only achieve 2,500 miles. But after Phase 2, it will be capable of 6,000 miles, finally pushing it into the ICBM range. Well into it. This turned into a complete rabbit hole, and it made me appreciate the Shagohod so much more. So there is no clear and simple answer about the ICBM capabilities of land-based mobile vehicles, as far as I can tell. And that doesn't surprise me at all. It's not like any government would be eager to advertise to their enemies. Or, have the case of North Korea, keeps boasting about its nuclear capabilities, and it's very unlikely they can even afford a hand grenade. But I found this interesting article from Air University. These Trinity Site papers are written by students. This one from 2015 with the fucking metal title, Nuclear Hell on Wheels, Examining the Need for a Mobile ICBM, by Lieutenant Colonel Matthew E. Dillow, USAF. To quote, as part of the acquisition process for new ICBMs, the Air Force has asked for proposals that include alternate basing modes such as mobile ICBMs. Pundits have ridiculed the notion of a mobile ICBM based largely on the projected cost and lack of utility against current threats, along with the unwillingness of American people to tolerate mobile nuclear weapons on their roads. While these arguments may have merit, they fail to address the fundamental issue underlying the re-emergence of the mobile ICBM in the contents of the nation's future nuclear force structure. The 2010 Nuclear Posture Review was explicit about the need to consider alternatives to silo-based ICBMs, directing the Department of Defense to explore new modes of ICBM basing that could enhance surveyability and further reduce any incentives to prompt launch. Such an assessment will be part of the Department of Defense's study of possible replacements for current ICBM force. Alright, so as of a decade ago, as I record this, the United States did not have a Shagohod yet. And this is why I think the Shagohod might be the ultimate simulacrum of Snake Eater. It does not exist, but it presents a way to explore all the logistical and emotional facets of mobile ICBMs. But I didn't fully appreciate it until now. So is it the fault of the writing for not achieving the level of engagement Kojima was presumably aiming for? Maybe. It's hard to become emotionally invested through info dumping. It is truly through all this research that I understand where Kojima was coming from, and then I start to see this through his own eyes. So yes, maybe it is a writing problem, but also Kojima seems like an excessive researcher like myself. He is very intelligent and has absorbed all of this information, but in order to fully appreciate what he's laying down, you need to know all that background that led to him telling this story. Thankfully, you have me to do all that research for you. This podcast is a lot of work, but sometimes I will make discoveries like this. It's a lightning moment. It's exciting to discover something new in a game I have played many times over the years. So, sadly, we had a wonderful eureka moment with the simulacra. Not so much with simulation. I honestly did not spot anything of note in this episode that faithfully replicated anything real. Certainly not Snake's Raikov mask and knocking people out and putting them in lockers, and there's just no consequence for any of that. Yeah, no, this was not the most realistic episode. But this is definitely a simulacra-heavy episode with both the Fury and the Shagohod. They both open up this discussion on the real space race and the nuclear arms race. The Piggyback Game Guide. For Infinite Rage, the Fury. The Flame Soldier. The Fury flew into space as a cosmonaut during an unofficial mission after the war. On re-entering through the Earth's atmosphere, he suffered severe burns when his capsule malfunctioned. Since then, he sees everything in a profoundly different manner. His eyes forever hold the world ablaze. And this is something I find interesting about Kojima. There's many things I find interesting about Kojima, but, well, first of all, directly ripping from the pop culture he loves, okay? But the repetition of plot elements, and I'll be curious to see how this plays out in Solid Snake's story arc as well. This recurring motif of someone goes up into space, they burn up on re-entry, the perspective is permanently changed. he goes for it twice in one story. And you see this recurring motif of the eye patch. Big Boss loses his right eye. I believe Raiden, I've seen pictures of him with an eye patch over his left eye, and then Old Man, Solid Snake, and I don't know if that is actually Solid Snake. The Old Man one, I'm presuming, is Solid Snake. His eye is covered on the cover, on the poster, on his left eye. He's got something over his eye. Oh, that could be like something in Cyberpunk, because you get a lot of devices in Cyberpunk that just go over your eye like that, like a Google Glass. You remember Google Glass? So that's my speculation. I keep forgetting sometimes. I get real bogged down in the research that I forgot to talk about. Well, I am the metal girl. I'm going through this journey for the first time, so I really do want to expose my ignorance sometimes. I focus too much on showing my expertise and my research. But yeah, I think listeners do want to know, what's it actually like when you haven't played these games? You've only got 3 or 4 games as reference, as context. Going back to the game guide. The Fury wears a special Soviet-made spacesuit under his rocket rucksack. Rocket rucksack? What a great rocket rucksack. We don't say rucksack in Australia, we just say backpack. I don't know why it's called a rucksack. What's a ruck? And this protects him from the heat of his modified flamethrower. These devices are, as standard, fueled with a mixture of napalm and gas.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Smells like victory.
By contrast, the Fury's customized weapon from hell burns pure liquid rocket fuel. That's gotta hurt. The battle with the Fury takes place in a network of corridors. It's initially very dark, but after some time, Snake's eyes will become accustomed to the gloom. Of course, you could use the night vision goggles or the thermal goggles, but the Fury's use of the flamethrower will obscure your view of him. You definitely should not look directly into the flames with the thermal goggles. The Fury is equipped with a rocket backpack, armed with a it's rocket rucksack, we decided. The Fury is equipped with a rocket rucksack, armed with a flamethrower, and is protected by a spacesuit. Your first objective is to damage that suit. Opt for the M37 to do the job, or the knife. It's extraordinarily effective in this fight. As soon as you pass the first stage of this battle, the Fury will exclaim in anguish that you've ripped his spacesuit. From this point forward, Snake's attacks will do more damage. There are Russian glow caps here, and Russian glow caps rather inexplicably recharge the battery in your devices when you eat them. If you catch on fire, you can do some more dive rolls. But also equipping a cardboard box or changing uniforms will put out the flames as well? Okay, that is definitely not simulation. Video game logic. You can also approach this fight in a different way. I mean, that's how Metal Gear works, right? Lie down in front of the door in the north. Wait patiently until the Fury advances into your line of fire. You can't be attacked from the back or from either side. And as long as a Rocket Man is standing below the steps, he won't be able to reach you with his flamethrower. And you can enjoy the luxury of free shots with less fear of a flaming rebuttal. Aiming for his head at the center of the huge helmet to inflict the most damage. If the Fury manages to set fire to your bolt hole, just run around the area for a while before returning to the door. I've not tried that one, I want to give that a go, I'll keep that in mind for Delta. You can also defeat the Fury, quickly and simply, with an unrelenting series of knife combos. Okay. Locked doors can be opened by punching or kicking them. If the door gets jammed inside the locker, it's safe to assume it contains nothing of use for Snake. If you're disguised as Raikov, avoid guard dogs, they can smell who you really are. Could that be my simulation of the episode? That is realistic. Yeah, maybe it will be. I don't have anything else. Yeah, that's my simulation for the episode. The Japanese novelization. Pages 270 to 300. I cannot believe I've read more than 300 pages of this book. And 300 seems huge, though. I mean, if you've seen Japanese novels and paperbacks, they're tiny. Page 274, the ladder gets a mention. The purpose of the underground structure was mysterious, but the concrete passage made it clear. His enemy had the financial means to carry out such a major construction project to carve out of a mountain. The long, straight tunnel came to a close with a long ladder. A rough metal ladder was nailed to the wall of a wide, concrete-filled vertical hole. After climbing up the ladder, which was so long that it made his hands and arms numb, he emerged at the middle of the mountain, just as Grannon had said. The underground passage was a shortcut through the mountain. A cold air made him forget that it was the end of summer. And I wonder if this author... I keep forgetting his name. I had it written down, then I don't... But yeah, I wonder... Was he allowed to play the game? Was he given a kind of playthrough video like I'm looking at? Is it a script? I wonder what he's working from. Because, yeah, the ladder in a script probably doesn't... It's probably not even in there and probably doesn't... You can't really convey it until you play it. You don't understand. Page 275. Snake admires nature. It was such a beautiful sunset that he wanted to light a cigar. And then 276. Snake admires Eva. Snake's eyes were glued to her body. There were vivid marks of torture. The top half of her jumpsuit was still off, and only her black bra was covering her voluptuous breasts. Eva looked very tired. Her haggard appearance was seductive. You look pretty tired, huh? Yeah, I'm fine. I've just been busy with 2 roles and haven't had enough time to sleep. And then the rest of the conversation is basically identical, talking about the scars, all of that. 284, more Snake emotional damage. He seems to be paralyzed with the thought of how to fill the huge hole left by the loss of his family. If he continues to nurture his relationship with his fellow Fox members, it may fade away someday. Page 295, this sentence is buck wild. Volgan is left behind, looking up at the sky after the sun has set. Tatiana stands there, like a dinner to tide him over. He doesn't want to bite into any more than anything, but it would be a shame to throw it away now. Eva, Tatiana is sloppy seconds, I don't know. Alright. That about covers it. Over and out.